with that, if the clerk would call roll, please.
Gary Patel,
Here.
Ron Whittington,
Here.
Megan Edwards, Thad Mosley, Kevin Myers is virtual, Sydney Talcott, Marcus Camphy.
Thank you. Oh. Wow.
We're still learning.
Hello?
We'll get there.
Hello? Hello? Oh, are you just? uh, okay. All right. I've got a feedback. I'm, I'm Cale Moore, the city engineer. Got with me David Suarez. He's the project engineer that kind of came in and filled in my role when I moved to city engineer a few years ago. So I'm going to run through these updates, and then I'll try to answer any questions on what we have going on. It's pretty self-explanatory in here, but I might have a little more detail if we need to get into a little bit more of the weeds on anything. So. First project on here is Phase 3B. So that's a project that we were hoping to do this year. It's not a very involved project. It's on several blocks of Second Street North over here. It's kind of a gap in some of the other projects that got done north of Beach. We've been really focusing on the area south of Beach for a while in the CRA. When we started working with our consultant GAI that we wanted to use for this to stay consistent with their designs in the downtown area, it turned out that we weren't really sure of how much needed to be done there because, like several of our other projects, we had a lot of underground infrastructure that we needed to upgrade and replace. This really isn't the case on this corridor, so it really was mostly flat work. So we had to revisit that, and we're refining the scope, and we're not even sure if we're going to how much we're going to utilize our consultant and how much we might just try to do it in-house. You will see this coming up in the future in the next meeting or two because we want to get input on what to do with the pavers at some of the intersections. So we'll have a few options. Mr. Barron will likely present those, but we'll have a few options and try to get your direction on how to handle that as a since we're going through mainly just kind of resurfacing, doing some work on the sidewalks, maybe, probably not any real infrastructure work under the roadway on that. So you'll see that pop up again, but we do anticipate being able to get this at least underway and encumbered before the end of this fiscal year. Construction wise, it will probably take place more in the fall. We don't want to tear it up during the summer. But Project 3C, that's the big project down here from blocks 5 down to, I think, 11, 10 and a half somewhere. We are just about to wrap that up. It's substantially complete. They've been getting some punch list items of just minor things. The latest information we have on the financing on that, or the fiscal side, is that we expect to get under $1 million, but hopefully more than about $750,000 unused. So not get back, but just that was encumbered. That includes contingency we had. So they did earn. My understanding is a little over half at least of the bonus that we offered for them to finish it up as early as possible. So we believe that in a big project like that, that was a successful approach to take, we think. So maybe we can have some regrouping on that later and see if that's a, a policy you want to stick with on certain sizes of jobs. So. Correct. It was. I think the argument could be made that it was just, in part, it was a success. I think because of the scale of the job. I'm not sure how successful it would be for a few block water main job, but on these larger projects that are really going to impact our residents, maybe it makes sense and it'll work win-win. So it seemed to be in this case. I think we could. Like I said, I think it's a scalability issue, and it just depends on the size of the project. But anything that we feel like is going to impact a substantial number of residents over a period of time on several blocks, it seems to have been successful in this case, and it might be a model you would want to look at on some future projects. Yep. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I, yeah. Yep. Yes. Like I said, this has been good all the way around. Yes. 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 I think I'm on twice. Oh gosh, I think it was 26. It was 26. Yeah, 26, 27 range, and I think we ended up out of it for about 25 and a half or something. It was in that, yeah. It's not
This was not a small project.
Yeah, yeah. It was large. Like it's certainly in the almost 7.5 years I've been here. It's the largest project that I've seen us undertake, especially in the number of residential block areas. We've done large projects in our plant facilities, and that's very different. This was large. Next project, project 3C. This one's got a lot of projects and phases and sub-projects. I'll try to clarify it a little bit. This was a portion of this downtown project, but it was the downstream portion. So if I see a few new faces here. The big downtown project originated with a very large study for the entire downtown CRA, and the south portion of that study included substantial storm and drainage infrastructure improvements, and a big important part of that was to shift the reliance on our beach outfalls in that area, so we were no longer discharging as much stormwater to the beach because FDEP is frowning on that. So it started the northern part up to 4th Avenue South goes to a different basin to the downtown big vault and basin and gets pumped over. From that part south all the way to, well, really to 16th, it goes through the central basin, which is at 12th Avenue, and is channeled out to the outfall there. So this drainage increased the loading on that central basin and how much we need to be able to store there and move on downstream of that. So it involved some upgrades that we knew we needed to make. We couldn't make all of it all at once, but the goal was to have it done kind of in connection, along the timelines of when the downtown project would be done. So now that it's wrapped up in that portion, we have a little bit that's non-CRA south of there. So now we're in the stage where we're channeling more, during events, we're channeling more stormwater through that central basin, and we need to get these other updates done. And that involved replacing the pump station, also replacing the pump station in the south basin, which is in the south end CRA, and then doing some improvements of getting some of the silt out of the basin. And then in the central basin, we've got 3 culverts. They're at 9th Avenue South, Fairway, and there's also a smaller one inside the golf course. And from the modeling our consultants did, those are substantial barriers to full flow that we need to accommodate larger events. So we needed to enlarge those and add additional flow openings through those culverts. So that's what part of this project does. The first portion there is demucking and restoring some of the sides of that entire central basin. And that's going to be the contractor for that is the same contractor that is going to be doing the 3 culverts. And where we are with that is we've had a pre-construction meeting. We don't have a schedule yet. We're working on, working with them to get a schedule for that work. It's complicated because we're going to have to shut down Fairway for a few weeks or a while, when they're doing that work. And then we're going to have to shut down Ninth while they're doing the work on that culvert. So we're trying to work with them to find the best times and the best way to do that with the minimal amount of time of shutting those roads down. And then also in the Central Basin and the South Basin, we're replacing the pumps in the pump station. And that's another contractor, but they know each other. They've been at the same pre-construction meeting so that they can make sure there's some coordination, since in the Central Basin, they'll be working at the same location on Ninth there and bringing equipment in and out. So they're going to be working together. We've already had them in contact and at meetings. And in addition to just changing the pumps out, we're also in the Central Basin completely rebuilding the wet well that the pumps pull the water in through, because it's been a difficult configuration to keep clean and to safely clean the grates on them. So we're making it almost basically like the one in the south that's been more successful at allowing more water to flow through as you get a lot of branches and leaves there. So we're excited about that. Another minor but really important to us, and I think when you see it possibly to you, is we're actually raising that weir a little bit. We're putting a metal plate along there, because if you've gone by there during king tides, you've seen that water coming over the wrong way. So when it fills that basin up, we don't have any storage volume for rains when we get big rains. So it was a permitting issue. We can't just go and put some blocks on there and call it a day. There are requirements by the Water Management District. So we were able to permit 8.5 inches or something to bring that up. We're excited because now when we pre-pump that for an event, we don't have to worry about wasting all that time and energy running those pumps. But unless it's I think maybe twice a year we might see a tide that'll top that elevation, maybe based on the analysis that we've done. So we're excited about it. Yeah, you'll see one down there. It's one pump is down. The other one was having issues, but I don't know if it completely went down. But we have a portable pump setting there, and just so you understand the way that works is that at a lower tide, the water has some pipes it flows through normally at a slow rate, and that's per the permit, per the calculations, to allow sediment to fall out and clean the water before it goes out into nature. It's not intended to just move all the water through right away. So the pumps are there to kind of control that volume. If you need, we're allowed to let it build up, and then we're allowed to pump it down a little bit. We have an exception where in advance of events now we can pump more volume and get ahead of larger events to store. But if those pumps completely went out, then the water would still flow out at low tide. It would just build up and go over the weir. At high tide, it doesn't matter if you're pumping or if you're trying to flow over the weir, it's not happening. So when it's going over the weir, it backs up in the system, and I think there might be a couple of intersections, maybe along 4th Avenue South, where it'll come up in the road. But it's not a scenario where if those pumps are not working, the city's going underwater. It's just not functioning the way we'd like. So we might get really some inconvenience, flooding issues. So. Is this the central or the south? I'm sorry, I didn't bring it.
Be the central, but I do know, like I said, we've just started our CIP conversations for 27 through 31. I would say the numbers you're looking at for the 26 budget have changed. I would probably hold off on
Mhm.
speaking to the numbers exactly because they're still kind of working through some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Got it.
so I believe from the original plan for that, the 27 was focused on, in addition to the culverts, we got the channel, the outflow channel, and that's got a lot of growth in it. We cleared some of the growth in some portions several years ago, but when I say growth, I mean branches, trees actually on the bank impeding flow. So that first, the 27 is to open that up, cut all the trees, and possibly replace the banks with some other format. What we may end up having it look like is, if you're familiar with our neighbors to the north, Atlantic Beach, they just redid that little north portion of Hopkins Creek and Aquatic with the smaller stone. We may end up with something like that both in the South Basin outfall channel, which is part of phase 6 down there, and also at the central. So that's what the first one. The second one pushed farther out is to actually more than just restore the banks, which is what we're doing this year at Central Basin, is to add additional storage and treatment capacity volume at the Central Basin, with possibly some form of sheet pile walls, like actually make that a more involved structure. It's not really popular with some of the residents, and we wanted to push it out because we really want to make sure, decide if the city really needs that additional level. So the money's there, and we just want to kind of circle back after we get the channel opened up, the new culverts in, and see if that really is going to benefit us, or if the work we're doing now seems to handle, the typical storm conditions that we generally look for, expecting.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, right now, looking kind of at our draft documents that we have for the future fiscal years, everything that Kel was just saying, that we're working on now and next year, and then we've actually bumped out 29. And right now, it looks at including the concrete sheet pile walls and to evaluate those in 29 as a potential expansion, if it's even determined that an increase is warranted. So you'll see kind of more of that piece in the coming months, but right now what we're working on is the clearing, widening, installing the concrete lining to the ditch channel from the weir to the intercoastal waterway.
That in the south, we're
Right.
currently working on that, and you'll see that in the budget. We're pushing that, splitting that into 2 phases. For the south channel, we're in progress with an engineering consultant now working on the first phase, and then eventually the second phase. The first phase is to do more than just cutting some trees, but to do really some clearing and grubbing all along the bank, from the weir out. And that's a really tough area in the south because there's a lot of encroachment from the Greensway and those condos. So we're having it surveyed. We've got an easement. It's been vague along that route as to where our easement boundaries are. So we're getting all of that really nailed down so that we can put a bid out to get a contractor in just to do the clearing, grubbing, get the banks ready for some future improvement. So we're taking a chunk of that money for the south end for that phase of the project for this year, and we'll have it accomplished, or at least encumbered before the end of this year, and working on it in the fall and winter. And then next year, we want to use the rest of that money we're pushing out to do some significant bank improvement, either concrete walls or Fabriform, or really liking, and they got a really good price. It was a very affordable project to do the work they did in Atlantic Beach. If you have an opportunity to look at that, see if it's meets your muster, or if you're like, oh my God, no, not in our town. So. So just a quick wrap up on that 3C there. We are working on that now. You're going to see we're waiting on, there were long lead line pumps ordered for the pump stations. Those are big pumps, 15,000 gallons a minute. They're big pumps. So 2 at each station. So we're still waiting. The contractors ordered those, waiting to come in. Sometime, I would think within the next month, you're going to see some things happening at that pump station at Central Basin, and somewhere along there, either Fairway, or we still haven't gotten the final schedule worked out within Phase 3C Project 6, this was done initially in design and coordination with the projects 4 and 5. It's the extension of all that work down to 13th that takes us all the way down to 16th. It's not in the CRA. Because it was related to that, it always stayed in the CRA as a reference. Now that we're completed with the CRA on south of Beach, that's been pulled out now of the CRA just so it doesn't confuse things, and it's 100% in the non-CRA budgets now. And we're hoping to move that. We're afraid we're going to have to kick it out for cost and other issues, but we might actually be able to pull that in next year, and we'll see. And we can have it, complete all the way down to 16th and move on from there. Let's see. Phase 3C Project 7. That's just trying to do some of the similar improvement within the CRA on the north, I think, portions of First Street and some of the avenues. Just some areas that got missed on some of the original downtown improvements based on the overall plan that was created. And the dune walkovers, I'm very happy to report we're in our last round of walkover rebuilds, and the materials that council and the CRA board members chose to use they claim a 25-year life. The decking materials, the framing, because it's the beach, at the beach, the framing and the piles really won't experience termites or significant rot. So it's always the decking that's exposed to the sun and the elements. So hopefully we're done primarily with the capital side of these for another 15 plus years, even on the ones that were done several years ago. Now you'll still see us come in front of you with some maintenance concerns or recommend other departments to handle that. Yes. Yes, we believe we put quite a few in this round, 20, and 7 of those are CRA and 13 are outside the CRA. We believe we got really lucky with this round. We have a really good contractor that's just basically knocking them out and keeping the workspaces safe and moving in a very structured manner down the coast. And the dune outfalls, that's been a tricky one for a while. We think we're finally getting our hands around it. We've got an engineering firm that's just wrapped up. It was a pretty complex stormwater modeling activity to bring together actually 4, but 3 main models and another small portion DOT model. So different models from different original model creators to model the stormwater drainage for the whole city, and then to look at these outfalls to see. The DEP is pushing back on our ability to just replace the piping in kind, just to get you up to speed on that. We had all of these outfalls originally permitted, constructed. Over time, maintaining those, keeping them clear and pulling sand out has caused the portions of the pipe to be broken closer and closer to the dunes, and that's why you see those holes of the outfalls. We tried to permit just extending those maintenance. They took it as an opportunity. A lot of new staff, new things happening in Tallahassee, we all know. They took it as an opportunity to say, actually, we don't think you should be discharging stormwater to the ocean. So they put a lot of requirements on if we're going to be able to do that. They want us to really look at other options. That doesn't mean we have to get rid of them all, but we have to justify a little more painfully to us now of why we need the ones we need. So it's been a while, but we finally got the model. We believe they've got it completed, validated. It's kind of like calibrated, but validated, and we're ready to work with them to see what options we have, and then carry it to DEP and see what they're okay with. So you'll be seeing that in the next few months. That'll come to you with some different options that we think make sense, and maybe some that we really may not want to do. So we'll see. Let's see. It helps the project to the south. The project to the south, a little to the north, but it's been helping us a lot to redirect the flow. But when we redirect that flow, we don't abandon the outfalls. They're still there, and there's an elevation inside, the last inlet close to the beach where it flows to the west. But if it's too much flow and it just fills the system up, it'll flow over back to the east instead of flooding areas, and it'll drain. And we don't want to lose that So that's why it's been kind of a lot of complicated back and forth. It is, yeah, it is. Yes. South End CRA, South Beach. Some of these are a little tricky. The Ocean Terrace Pond, we candidly we just keep looking at that and going back to it's a strange pond. It looks like it's not really doing anything, but it has a very specific duty in the permit that we can't just scrub away. And so it's complicated on how we might be able to get rid of that pond and then accommodate what the permit initially was using it for in the South Basin or any other infrastructure. So we just keep getting on to other projects that we honestly know we can move forward on, and that one just sits there until we can find a better time. But we're committed on our future budget schedule. We're committed to handle that in the next 2 years. So whether that's doing something to it and restoring it, or finding an opportunity to fill it and make it a parking lot. Yes, yes, and it was initially, well, let's just go on and replace the walls, do it, fix it, and then we started scratching our heads, and our consultants are modeling it. And they're saying, well, how does it even function? And so we don't want to spend $1 million plus on it to find out that we could absorb that functionality, that permanent functionality, into some other components of our system, and free up that and not have to worry about that headache of an asset moving forward. So we'll see. South Basin Stormwater Outfall Channel, we talked about that. That's the one we're looking to clear this year and come back with some kind of a bank improvement in the following year. We also had some silt removal in that pond, and I don't know if it stayed in the out years of the budget. We're really not sure that's going to buy us enough to be worth whatever it was, $2 million or plus. It wasn't getting us a lot back in treatment volume, so we tabled that for a couple of years. The,
Yeah.
yeah,
So this is, so right now what we're looking at going forward into the future is we're looking at putting some design dollars towards that to just really try and figure out what, if anything, needs to be done.
yeah. So if you look at how the size of the South Basin compares to the Central Basin, you can see where you're just not getting as much bang for your buck if you try to, put sheet pile in, and it's very much smaller. And so the money you put into that to buy another 20% of treatment or storage volume just may not make sense, and that's why we're and even our consultant recommended, like I said, this we really want to look at this one to see if it's worth it before we really move forward on it. So.
That is
Oh.
how sort of we just got for the stormwater reuse improvements phase 6. We've got some design dollars in 27, but that is including Osceola Ave from South Beach Parkway to Santa Drive, and that Osceola Original Pond, the modifications, and then whatever necessary reconstruction at the JTV Basin pumping station and the pond improvements. Does that all sound?
Is that all still under 5, or do we move to 6 here? Is it under 5 still?
Kale's right. I jumped ahead. That was me. That was
Oh,
my fault. Yeah. We're on 5 still. I jumped ahead to 6. So that is completely my fault. We still have, I apologize, construction for phase 5. Thank you
Okay.
for correcting that. That was me. And that's for the downstream outfall improvements, including silt removal, the pipe cleaning, and the rehab and the
Yeah, that's the one that I was telling you that
Yes.
this year we're doing the clearing of the channel banks, trees, and roots and grubbing. And so I think in CRA we had $7.5 million, and then some city dollars as the city component of that. That's the one where we're taking out of that whole entire 10 plus or minus $1 million. We're taking about a fourth of that and keeping it in this year to do the clearing, grubbing work, and then the remaining part, about 75% of that or so, we're pushing to next year to do the major bank restoration, whether that's concrete walls, fabriform. We don't think we're going to do sheet pile along there. I think it'll be the construction, and what doing the clearing and grubbing first will help the engineers in really being able to evaluate the best approach to stabilizing and reconstructing the banks, and then also really help us get our hands and heads around the access issue for that, because it's one thing to go in and cut trees, but when we go in there with big haulers and moving rock around, or pouring concrete or something, we need to know how we're going to the contractor's going to get the equipment in there. We'll have a lot better handle on that once it gets cleared in phase one. So that was our approach for that. So phase six is a little bit of a tricky one. I think there was some very specific intent for that originally, with Marty and the original studies that might have been Waits and Moy originally. Since then, in the last, I would say, decade even, but certainly in the last 7 or 8 years, there have been different improvements done along South Beach as part of the drainage system, and also the Osceola ditch that runs along to the east of Ocean Cay. There have been a few improvements, a few redirects. Every time we look at that now with our eyes that don't have the benefit of institutional knowledge, we're wondering what the real objective of that project was. So we have I think it was the original engineer, but we have John Moy of Waits and Moy under contract now. He just started this, and he's doing an evaluation of the projects we've done since then and actually completed that might have impacted what those initial problems were they were trying to address with this project. And he's going to come up with a basis of design for us moving forward to see, what improvements can we really do there, and what are the problems that we're seeing. One issue with that pond that's in Ocean Cay, that's part of the system, is it's being managed a little differently, and people do this, and that's here that we can try to make sure it's achieving both goals as an properly operational drainage infrastructure asset, and an amenity. So we might have to shift the levels a little bit. That's going to be part of this to see if we need to remodel some of that, redo some of that. So. Yeah, it actually came in below that. We won't get a design. We'll get what we'd call maybe a 30% preliminary. It won't just be, put some pipe here. It'll take it a little farther and give us a little bit like a magnitude of scale cost for the construction of the improvements, and then we'll move forward with a more detailed design if we find that we still have some issues we need to solve with a capital project. Yeah. Yes. Right. Yes. Yeah. And yes, we've been, we as the city and public works, we've kind of been moving that one until we could, get a handle on these other projects and get to the point where we can say, all right, what were we really, way back when, what were we really trying to solve there, and what are the issues now, and how do those marry up with the project that we think we want to move forward with. So. Well, it will be kind of the same system. So that system along Osceola, and that crosses there, and where the pond at Ocean Cay, the pond at Riptide comes into that pipe system under South Beach, and it flows down in the piping under South Beach Parkway all the way down to the basin, the South Basin. You've also got the ditch channel around Ocean Cay, comes down, drops under Jack's Drive, and goes under Home Depot in the parking lot. There's a giant vault out there with all these covers that, we go and we clean silt out. It goes under the other stores there, the Whole Food, whatever on Staples. And then it goes under JTB and around, and it ends up in the South Basin. So we've done improvements down there. That channel, if you remember, that big, underground channel on the north side of Longhorn and that area. So we've done these improvements, and now we want to see kind of what can we do from here to there. Now that we've got these other improvements done, so it would involve potentially that channel, that pond that we go to in the move that we share, things like that. Oh, yes, yes. I will. I'll talk to Mr. McDonald. Uh, okay, I'll talk to Mr. McDonald and make sure he's on that. I didn't get to see it, but a little before I started here, they cleaned that out, and the way they handled that at the time is I probably used a crane, but they set a small, like a very small bulldozer in there, ran it through the culvert under JTB to clean all that dirt and silt out.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yep. Well, that's all I have that was quasi-scripted. So,
Can you maybe just address one other issue that's not on your list, just out of curiosity? A while back we had the issue of the cave-in that occurred in the parking lot in the Sunshine Park. Are we moving forward with getting that redone?
oh yes, I'm sorry, I don't have the exact schedule, but we have I believe it's a purchase order now, but we have a purchase order, I believe, at least in the process with the one of our contractors doing some work with the city right now. And I don't know the schedule, but I can follow back up with you. I believe within a month, certainly, but I think it's going to be sooner than that. I think they're the same contractor that's doing the water main work on First Street North. So I'll have to follow back up with you and get with Dennis Dupree and see what the contractor has told him on getting to that. So.
Thank you. Sorry, I think I've dominated the conversation here, and I apologize. I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues. And Sydney, I assume you have some questions.
Yeah, not about a specific project, just kind of zooming out a little bit for my own education. Do y'all typically work with the same, 5 to 10 consultants for certain types of projects? And do you find that through that the project timelines are typically shorter and that it's generally a more efficient process?
We do, and we would like to. We're coming up for another. So we have a list of continuing engineering consultants doing the design work, not the construction work. We have a list of continuing consultants that we pick from based on their familiarity with the certain types of projects and also their capabilities that they communicate to us through a proposal process. And we keep them on a continuing contract for 5 years. And that 5-year contract is coming up this year. And in the next 2 months, we're going to advertise for a request for proposals. And we'll get 20 plus proposals. And our hope is to shortlist that to less than 10, but we'll see. Last time we shortlisted it, and council thought it was a good idea to just take all of them. So we tried a few new ones that we hadn't used, and I don't, anyway. So, but then, we have some that we really like to use, and from time to time, they get really overloaded and busy, and then they don't meet the schedules we want. So it's a balancing act. We hate to not use them because they're local, they know our city, and yet, we need the work done. But yes, if we can work with the ones that are that we're familiar working with and that are familiar with our infrastructure and city, I think it usually benefits us.
Excellent.
Without a doubt.
Thank you.
Contractors, that's a bid situation.
Right.
We do have some we like. We don't do a pre-qualification because it gets really complicated.
Yeah.
So we really just keep our fingers crossed that low bid's going to be one of the ones that we've worked well with. So.
Thank you.
Right, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to test it and see. No, actually, it was kind of interesting because I used to work at JEA and I found it frightening. I still remember all this stuff, and I was like, yeah, I understand what's
Fresh
talking about. But that was a really good overview. I guess you've got job security because this stuff's going to always rupture. You're always going to be replacing. Always going to be. So you're going to be here a while. But anyway, I thought it was a good presentation. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I tend to get a little in the weeds as engineers do. So
Got a lot to
I didn't
handle.
go too deep. Thank you.
You got off 9th Street up for me, or 7th. So I saw it for a couple of years. It was wild.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna just ask if Kevin has any questions, since he's virtual, before we move on to another topic. Is there a way of,
I'll take a stab at virtual questions.
if he doesn't, that's fine. I was just wanting to give him an opportunity.
Sounds like you got my mic.
I think we'll just go ahead and move on. If we need to, we can come back to Kevin and see if he has any questions. Yeah.
He said no.
All right.
I'm sorry,
Thank you.
Taylor. Thank you. I appreciate the
Thank you. Nice
presentation.
meeting
It
you,
was
too.
very helpful. It definitely
Have a great evening.
caught us up a little bit here. I'm going to move on to the second item on the agenda for discussion, and that's the RFP P3 project overview. Taylor, I will turn it over to you.
Yeah.
Oh.
They're hot.
Yikes.
They're really hot.
Okay, so first off, thank you, Jody, to getting all of our mics working and playing the shuffling game. Now everyone can hear us. So Monday night at the city council meeting, before we got into the agenda, the city manager had asked the city council if they had any additional feedback for us or any additional comments on the RFP package for the public-private partnership. We had provided it to council, the same documents you all received, I guess it was about 2-ish weeks before. And after working on this project for quite a while now, we received all head nods and thumbs up from every member of council. Yeah, so council is ready to proceed with this project. As of right now, I've been working with procurement all week. Our plans are to issue this next week. Procurement issues packages like this on Wednesdays. So I know originally we were saying Monday the 16th. Wednesday is the standard date for procurement. So if all things go according to plan, this would go live Wednesday the 18th. About 30 days after this goes live, and this will all be published when the document's published. So, this will be very easy information to find. About 30 days after it goes live, there will be a pre-proposal meeting. It'll be the exact same format like Public Works typically does with pre-bid meetings when they issue big projects. We did decide with procurement that it won't be a mandatory meeting for potential proposers, but most who are interested will very likely attend, and they will be encouraged to attend. What those meetings are is a opportunity for any interested proposers to come after they've had about a month with the bid package or the proposal package, and just kind of ask questions and things that they may need clarification on, but doing it in an open meeting. With that being said, it does get a little tricky. The only people that will attend and speak about the project is the property and procurement division. So I will not be talking about the project. Heather will not. Even Jim and Brenna will not be allowed to talk about the project because they are consultants to the CRA. on that, we are all bound. I know you're probably sick of seeing me say cone of silence. I know everyone internally is sick of hearing me say cone of silence, but it is to be taken very seriously with projects, especially like this. We recently updated our procurement manual. Our procurement manual covers all staff, all board members, and all of city council, and then essentially anyone that would be a third party to us or the city, which then covers our lovely friends here at the table with us. Once this is live, no one is able to speak to, have discussions, whether it's informal, formal, in writing. If someone sees you in the line at Cup of Job and wants to talk about it, that is a direct violation of the procurement policy. Again, I know we've sent out a few memos. I've referenced it a lot. Update, there will be another memo coming out once this is getting ready to go live. We have an internal memo that's going to go out to all staff because, you know, things you may not even think of. Someone very innocently is at the counter paying a water bill or a power bill or what, you know, whatever they're paying, and they say, hey, I want to know more about this. You know, we are making sure we educate everyone internally of what the policy is. So as of Wednesday, for about 90 days, the only people that questions need to be directed to is Property and Procurement Division. In the memo that'll be coming to you maybe tomorrow, most likely Monday, it gives you the address, the contact number, and the contact email for everyone at Property and Procurement, and a very standard message. So, you know, we know that projects like this are going to get a lot of questions, rightfully so, but let's let our friends at Procurement handle this through the appropriate channels. I'm happy to answer questions related to the documents you all received, but really, you know, we're just really ready to get things rolling. And I also would like, I do want to also clarify, yes, it's exciting, it's great, we're at this point, this truly has taken quite a while. You know, Gary knows, he's been here on the board now for several years, so he knows this is not just a few months, this is a few years in the making to get to this point. With that being said, you know, this is only phase one, right? You know, I have this weird thing. I like to kind of compare everything to building a house. I don't know why I'm not building a home and I've never built a home, but it seems like an easy comparison. This is basically, we're pouring the foundation, right? So once you pour the foundation, you're not moving in. You know, you still have a whole lot of steps to get through. This is laying that foundation. And I want to be really clear with that, you know, because what the last thing we want to do is have anyone thinking, okay, we're issuing this and it's all said and done and nobody can change anything and it's fine. It's not. I mean, there are so many more rounds of this that we have to get through. So, you know, at any point, there will be ample time for public CRA meetings. Once we get through this first phase, there will be public council meetings. We left it at the discretion of the council. If there are multiple proposers that we really like and are comfortable with, they can request they all come back and have a public meeting where they do presentations. So there are a lot of safety nets to make sure before we even get to a council meeting where council is approving a preferred candidate, there are multiple layers to make sure everyone is as comfortable as they can be. Yeah, so happy to clarify or answer any questions.
I'll open it up for discussion by the board if there's anybody who has questions, comments.
I see you have a list there, Gary, so I'm worried about that. No, I was going to say, you always remind us on the cone of silence, even though I laugh every time I see it because in Get Smart it never worked. But you needed to remind us because, I mean, we saw people in other jurisdictions here that are putting things in emails and saying a lot of things they shouldn't say. So it's good to remind us. And I looked at the RFP, and I know you're going to have questions. I thought it was, you know, I mean, it hit all the high points, and
Yeah.
And I from seeing big construction projects done, it doesn't happen overnight. It
No.
takes a while.
It
So
does not.
you can have people contest it.
Absolutely.
All kinds of things happen. So glad we got to this point. It'll be fun to see what happens.
Step one.
Sydney, do you have any comments?
I know I mentioned this in email, but first of all, highlighting all of the changes when you shared it with us was incredibly helpful. So thank you. But also the
adding the bonus criteria points for the local, you know, and lead as well as the minority and female, and I think was a really fantastic addition. So.
Those were suggestions too from council members, so they were great suggestions to add. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. I've spent a little bit of time with Taylor going over a number of questions that I had, which from the portion of the document we received, I think it was in other sections. So I think most of my questions have been answered, and I think we've got a good RFP that's going to go out on the street. I'm enthused about getting this out on the street. It's been a while, but I want this, you know, I want to see this be a fair process, an open process and a fair process for everybody. So we need to follow those criteria that you just outlined, Taylor. We need to make sure that everything is directed to procurement and nobody else. Everybody gets the same information. We get consistent responses back from all of the proposers, which will just make it a much better process for the city and an easier process for the evaluation committee to review ultimately. But thank you for getting it to this point. I have just a minor comment, I guess. When I went back through it again, there was some minimum service life numbers that were put in there, and one of them was for piping 50 years. I thought that was, I've never seen 50 years as a life. It just seemed like it, you know, particularly if you're talking about the interior of the building. Exterior, sometimes I've seen 50-year life, but not so much for the interior piping. And then again, the same thing about building roofing systems. It says 25 years. You can get 25 years maybe with asphalt shingles, but I don't think that's the kind of roofing system you're going to get. It's probably maybe a single ply membrane, which is more a 15 to 20 year lifespan. That's the longest warranties that I've seen. It's just a couple minor items that just popped out at me. But thank you. Look forward to seeing this out on the street, and it'd be interesting to see the responses that we get.
Yes, definitely. I will say for the record, I have heard from, well, actually all four. I know Kevin's virtual, but he had sent an email. I've talked with Megan. She's comfortable with it. Mr. Mosley, same thing, and Marcus as well. So even though they're not here, they have all, the four that are not physically here in person, have all engaged with me with this, and all seem to be in a place as well where they're comfortable with where we're at. And again, you know, like I said, I know by the end of this, you guys are going to be sick of hearing me say the words cone of silence. But they're there. It's there for a reason, and it's important to protect the integrity of the project. And I know a lot of times things can seem really casual and innocent. You know, you just bump into someone at the grocery store or grabbing coffee, and it's like, oh yeah, this city stuff is going on, and you know, it's one of those things that seems silly, but unfortunately, it is something we just with this have to be really mindful of. So, and like I said, don't worry, you'll be getting I don't know what number we're on now, 3, 4, another memo from me either tomorrow or early next week, as well as the council and all city employees. And hopefully that'll be the last one we have to send out about the cone of silence. So.
Yeah, and I think hopefully everybody understands. I mean, this is something that basically we just cannot discuss among ourselves and council members or anybody else. It needs to be quiet until the responses are back in and evaluations have been made and so forth. Any questions that you may have most appropriately need to be directed to Taylor, and if they need to be distributed to the board, then she'll make sure that they get distributed. But because of sunshine law,
get them in fast. Get those questions in fast. You can only ask me until Tuesday. After Tuesday, if you email me, it's totally fine. You will get an automated thank you for asking. Please reach out to procurement at this number. And you will get that for 90 days.
We have to do it by Tuesday.
Yeah, anything after Tuesday, can't help you.
Okay. Anything else in reference to the P3? Okay. next item on the agenda is adjournment, but before we go to adjournment, I want to make one last comment. Taylor, I want to thank you, and I want to thank Trevor for the effort that you put forth in staying on top of Sunshine Park. I was, after our conversation, I was impressed that everybody has worked hard to make sure that we get our warranties in place and that we get the warranty work that we're due for the problems that are being seen in reference to the artificial turf that's in the playground area and so forth. And I understand that that's going to be done here in the next few weeks. They'll start that effort, and it'll probably take 3 to 4 weeks to complete.
Yes.
But if it wasn't for your efforts and for Trevor's efforts in identifying the issue and then following up with the manufacturer, we may not have gotten the benefits of the warranty out of this. So I think that speaks great for both of you and the efforts that the city staff has done in reference to this. So again, thank you.
Takes
I went out there and took a look
teamwork.
I went out there and took a look at it, and for me, it was still hard to see exactly where the problem was. I think I identified an area, but I'm not 100% sure. But it'll be great that we're able to get a whole new surface in there, and really at no cost to us. Or
There were some minor costs we had to pay, but the bulk of the costs, which are the materials, which are hundreds of thousands, no, we're not having to pay.
that's
We had to pay like the shipping and something else, but it was very, in the scale of what this cost, extremely minimal.
Yeah.
And I'm actually glad you brought that up. One thing we've done with this project that you will see with hopefully every project going forward, I've been working closely as well with our communications team now that they've also expanded, and for pretty much every project, but especially ones that are going to be pretty large and impact the community, like we're closing one of the best playgrounds, I would argue, in all of Northeast Florida. We put together a communications plan. We share that internally. We share that out with council, and not just making kind of random posts, but being very intentional and starting to share things 3 weeks out, and then having kind of benchmark timelines. So today another post went out about it. Next week there'll be another post and an informational video. One of the things we're doing with the video is going to be actually, yes, it's really unfortunate that we have to close this, but hey, did you know we have all of these other great amenities, and utilizing as an opportunity to highlight other amenities, and not just in Jacksonville Beach, but also some of the amenities we have in our other fellow beach communities for people that they can visit. And so we're really trying to use these big projects and really start honing in on communications and public outreach, and kind of simultaneously trying to achieve these big capital projects, but also continue to build those relationships and trust with the public. So stay tuned, and if you're on social media and see our videos, feel free to like and share. Get a little plug in there for communications.
Thank you. One thing that popped into my head that I'd maybe like you to take a quick look at, it's, again, Sunshine Park. There's some ice cream trucks that park down there, and they've been parking in the fire lane down there for a number of years. They've done that. Somebody must have recently told them that they can't park there, and they have moved to a slightly different area. But in order to get there, for the people to get to that truck, they've got to trample across some of the landscaping and so forth, and it's really worn badly in that area. And maybe we need to create a little concrete pad down there. But anyways,
I'm going to defer to the planning director on this one.
I love a good ice cream truck. However, so the rules are, and Jody can probably add to this if necessary, but they're supposed to keep moving as long as they're still serving. They can stay there, but I think they kind of take that with some liberties, if you know what I mean, because I see them there, for a little while. When I saw them last time, they were kind of right in front of, like, to the south of the entrance. So I'll see if we can take a look to see. We don't certainly want them trampling, or the children trampling our beautiful landscaping that we spent so much time and money on. So we'll keep an eye on it.
It's just that it's something to address that issue. I mean, I'd be willing to go down there with you and show you exactly what I'm referring to.
Yeah, because I've seen them in a couple different spots. The fire lane's one of them, and they seem to have moved a little further down.
Yeah, they kind of went as you come around that little curved area,
Mhm.
where it leads to the south end parking area.
Yeah.
That's
know what
where
he's
they're
talking about.
parking now, is where they're at, and there's no sidewalk right up to that location. So, but anyways, thank you.
We'll take a look. That's good to know.
With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.